there, A&W 11 class. It's April 8th today, and we are starting our work virtually. So today we'll be looking at Algebra 2, the booklet here, which I have uploaded to your Edmodo account. And yeah, so that's where we are. That's what we're starting. It's some basic algebra. I think there's like 4 pages. They're all those joke type of pages. So it's just a matter of getting stuck in and learning these details. So anyways, let's get started with dealing with the algebra from this particular booklet. If you remember, algebra is it's a Persian word, means Algebra, so it's basically like the method of parts. It's a book that was produced by Al-Khwarizmi, and since before the Crusades. So we get this information from Persia, and it's a philosophy. The philosophy has 3 parts, and if you remember philosophy means, philo means to love, so the city of Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love, phila, right? And Delphi is brother. And Sophie or Sophia means wisdom. So it's a philosophy, and this philosophy has 3 parts. Can you remember what they are? Take a moment, see if you can. I'll pause the video. Alright, so the philosophy is really 3 parts. You start off figuring out how to isolate, and then you got to figure out how to cancel, and then you got to have to figure out how to balance, or what you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side of the equation. So in the last booklet from before Christmas, and I'll upload that one to your Edmodo accounts too, so in case you don't have that. But if you if you look on your Edmodo accounts, you'll be able to find Algebra 2, which is the one that we're talking about right now. And let's have a look at some of the types of questions you'll see there, and the ways to go about managing them. Okay, so here we see 2 examples. X minus 5 equals 20, and then over here we have minus 5x equals 20. And they're not the same. You have to make sure you understand the difference between what these 2 guys are asking you. So in the first one, this says what minus 5 equals 20. And of course, if you remember algebra, if you scroll back a little bit in the video, you'll see the philosophy, and it starts off with what do we isolate? So we want to isolate our variable, which we call the letter x, right there. Boom. So to isolate that, we have to know how to identify it, and then you got to say, well, how do I cancel out, or how do I make that isolated? I have to cancel out the 5, the minus 5, and so how do you cancel out a minus 5? Well, you do the opposite, so that means the plus 5. So I have plus 5 here to cancel it out, and I have to keep balance, so I have to plus 5 over here as well. Okay, so that cancels. 5 minus 5 is 0, and so I'm left with x. And then 20 plus 5 is 25. And there's my answer. I don't have to work too hard to solve it. I mean, you could guess ahead, and that does work when the questions are easy, but it's not a very good idea to do when the questions get harder, because you wind up using too much brain power. You get tired too early. And if you just follow the simple philosophy of isolate, cancel, and balance, then your answer finds itself. So over in the second one over here, this is minus 5x. And now that means minus 5 times x, not minus 5 plus x. And so to isolate the x right there, isolate the x right there, I have to do the opposite of what's happening to it. And this is being times by minus 5. So to do the opposite of times by minus 5 would be, divide by minus 5. So we write it like this. Divide by minus 5. I'll divide here by minus 5. And if you need your calculator, well, your calculator will calculate that out for you, and that gives you x, and then 20 divided by minus 5 is negative 4. So, as you're going through your questions, you're going to have to be aware of some of those differences about how those things play out. Now, let's look at a couple of other questions that you'll see in that booklet, especially ones that deal with fractions and division, and we'll have a look at that next. So I'll pause the video, and yeah, we'll go into those details. Alright, so here we have two questions that are kind of the same idea, and that is x divided by 5 equals 20, and 1/5 x equals 20. So, let's have a look and see how that those two play out. For the first one over here, right, x is being divided by 5, that's what that bar says. So in order to do the algebra, you have to do the opposite, right? X being divided by 5, so the opposite of divided by 5 is plus 5? No, times by 5. So we rate it to look like this. Times by 5. You can rate it as 5 over 1 if it helps, although most of the time it doesn't. But times by 5. And so 20 times 5, that equals 100. And then here the 5's cancel. So all I'm left with is x. And x is equal to 100. And that's dealing with division. On the other side, over here, we have 1/5 x. Now you can convert 1/5 into a decimal if you like, and if you do that on your calculator you get 0.2. So let's have a look and see what that looks like. This will be 0.2x is equal to 20. 0.2x is equal to 20, and then you can divide by 0.2 to both sides. That would work, and you wind up getting x is equal to 100. Right, divide 20 by 0.2 and you get 100. And that's fine. You can do it like that, although sometimes decimals can be messy. But the faster way, and the way that I hope you will adopt it, and the way that will make your life easier in your booklet, is to convert this 1/5 x into this guy over here. So I'll show you how that's done. Okay? It looks like this. We can write the x as x over 1, and so this becomes one giant fraction. And 1/5 x, well, remember when you multiply fractions, you multiply across the top and across the bottom, so I get 1 times x, or x, and 5 times 1 on the bottom is 5. Right, and then I just look at my 20 over here. X divided by 5 is 20, which is exactly what we have on this side. So these are basically identical questions. They give you the same answer for the same reason. It's just that one is written as a fraction and one is written as a like a division question. And it's much easier if you take those fractions and write them as division questions. So let's extend this idea to something that's a little bit harder. Okay? Okay, so here we have -2/5 of x is equal to 20. And again, you could do it by converting 2/5 to a decimal. So if you calculate it on your calculator, you go 2 divided by 5, -2 divided by 5, and you get a decimal for that. So when you do that on your calculator, you get -0.4. Don't forget there's an x there, right? So -0.4 times x. And to cancel it off, you divide off your -0.4 to both sides. If you do that on your calculator, you wind up getting -50. So there's your answer. But is my hope that you take this and you convert it to the fraction on the other side of the page, because it's much easier. You don't really even need your calculator, especially if you know how to multiply by 5 and divide by 2, which is not really even that hard. So remember, we could write this as -2/5 times x over 1, and I can go -2 times x, which is -2x, and 5 times 1, which is 5, and I can write it as a super fraction over here, and then I can just pick apart that fraction using the algebra. Okay, so how do you get rid of a divided by 5? Times by 5. So let's have a look at that. Times both sides by 5. Times by 5. That cancels. And I'm left with negative 2x. 20 times 5, of course, is 100. This is negative 2 times x. So divide off the negative 2. Both sides. There's my x left over. And 100 divided by negative 2, of course, is negative 50. So it's just easier if you wind up doing that. You don't really even need a calculator. But there are both ways. You can do it with a calculator on the decimals, or you can convert it to a superfraction. And the superfraction way is just a better system overall. So, ladies and gentlemen, that really is all you need to be able to do in order to be able to manage your booklet. So I'm going to pause the video and we'll have a look at a couple questions from your Algebra 2 booklet. And yeah, then I'll let you get into some work and give you an assignment to do. So you're going to need to download this from your Edmodo account that you've signed up for, and then re-upload it after you've solved it. And I'm going to want to see some of the work that you've done, so you might want to include any scrap paper that you've included. So yeah, I'll pause the video for a moment. Alright everybody, so I'm looking at the first page and I've picked out these questions. There's 2 on the top row, and then a little bit further down, and then at the very, very end we've got this guy over here, which is a little bit of a challenge. So the very first question over here, right, we've got 4x equals 28, so 4 times x equals 28, right? Divide both sides by 4. So you get 7 over there. X is equal to 7. And so if you look on the booklet, come on. Letter E, right, you get a value of 7, so 7 is kind of right there in the middle. Right, you see it? That's where you plug in the letter E, so right there. Okay, so the next one I have the K value on the other side of the equation. So 24 equals 2K, divide by 2K, or divide by 2 rather. 2's cancel, I'm left with K, and 24 over 2 is 12. So you go back to the sheet, you plug in to the number 12, you plug in the letter H. Okay, negative 6t is equal to 66. This is down a little bit further. It's letter O. It's right below the next set of codes that you have to put in. So divide by negative 6, divide by negative 6, and I get t is equal to negative 11. Okay, you plug that one in. And then here t, the very last question, I've got negative y is equal to negative 10. That's like a negative 1, right? We don't really show those negative 1s, but to find that I just divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1, right? And I get y is equal to 10. So some very quick and easy questions for you to plow your way through. And yeah, we'll have a look at one more of those details coming up. Okay, so the very last page, page 3, did you hear about? That's letter A, the very first one. So 1/8 x is equal to 4, right? It's just easier to write this as x over 8, right, is equal to 4, right? That's what I talked about a little bit earlier. And that just makes your job a lot easier, because now all you have to do is times by 8 to both sides. Right, so times by 8, 4 times 8 is what, 32? And your 8's cancel, and there's your x. X is equal to 32. Right, easy peasy. And then on the other side, on the second column, letter M, I picked one that was a little bit tricky because it has the y variable on the other side. Right, and so I'm going to rewrite this as negative y over 6, and that's going to be 13 over here. So actually I can put that negative on the bottom if I want. It doesn't really matter which one it goes on as long as it's on one of them. So just to save some time and space, I'll put it on the bottom. Times by negative 6 to both sides. So times by negative 6. both sides. And what's that? 60, 78. Negative 78. So here we go. Those guys cancel. There's your y value. And negative 78. Bada bing. Bada boom. Okay, so yeah, there you go. I will let you guys get into your work, and you know, I'll give you about a week to finish this assignment off. And I got another assignment coming in for you that's you know, more algebra as we start adding layers of complexity to the work that you already know and can do. Okay, so I'll sign off, and yeah, I'll upload this to your Edmodo account and give you a chance to get started. Bye!